BookTube, it's Angie. I had to adjust the camera just right because I didn't want to be one of those, intentionally dropped it too low. It's like, haha, don't look at my boobs. I don't want to be that girl, so adjust it just a little bit. I thought today I would do a combination discussion tag together video. I don't know if it was this past week, but the week before maybe. Top 5 Wednesday did the topic of reading habits. And when I thought about it, I was like, there's no way I can narrow that down to 5. Because it's my thing, it's my life, and I have so many weird book quirks that I could make a whole video about it. And then I was like, why don't you? And I know some of my early viewers been watching my videos since the beginning. They might be like, didn't you used to do top 5 like every week? Yeah, I was doing top 5 pretty consistently every week for a while, and then I started just accidentally getting out of the habit of doing it because I was getting caught up in other things. I don't know, some of the topics recently I just couldn't come up with a list for, so now it's a little bit more sporadic. I still look at the topics, and then if I have something to come up with, I'll do a video for it. So that's the story on that. But today, talking about reading habits, I thought what I would do is kind of talk about my personal reading habits, because I don't think I've gone into it a little bit here and there on this channel, but I don't think I've really discussed what I personally tend to do with my reading life. And I thought I would talk about that, and then maybe do the actual, what is it called, reading habits tag, I think it's called, or something like that. I guess I'll start with my own personal habits, and then some of those questions may cover the same information again, but cross that bridge when we get to it, right? And I know the hair is a little bit Bruno Mars pompadour right now, but I don't know. I was kind of digging it, so I'm working with it. Okay, so talking about my own bookish habits, where to start? As you guys know, I say a lot on this channel, I hate reading things out of order. Sometimes I will let it slide if it's something that I bought and read and didn't know that it was part of a series till after I read it. Like I did that with, I read Sepulcher by Kate Moss, and I've read it, loved it, found out Sepulcher was part of a 3 or 4 book series. It was like book 2. It's like, damn it. It annoys me when that happens, but I don't beat myself up over it too much. I don't have a thing about reading entire author's works in order, like by publication date. I don't do that to myself. It's just if I actually know going in that they're part of a series, I don't like reading them out of order. Even if people are like, no, it totally works as a standalone. I don't care, because almost every series book I read, even if the book works as a standalone, there are still things within each book that sort of tie the other book together. That's how they become a series. So I like having the detail information from all the other books. So that's why I'm kind of a stickler about reading it in order, because I don't like going into a story feeling like I didn't get the memo. When I do read, I have to read with a notebook or something, a notepad, anything, which, I don't know, it may stem from my college lit course days when I knew I was going to have to be writing papers on things and had to dissect and analyze every little thing I was reading. It may be a residual from that, but now being, I've only been a vlogger on here for not even a year yet, but I've been a book blogger in some form for most of my adult life, so it's just been a habit with me that I'm always noting down quotes I like, or things that made me think, or things that raised questions in my mind, and I do that as I'm reading, so that when I go back to write reviews or talk about videos here, I have sort of an outline of what I want to discuss. I don't know, it just helps me organize my thoughts, and it also helps me retain books better. Borrowing books. When I was younger, I used to lend out my books all the time, and then as I started seeing my library take more and more hits of books never coming back, or in really disgusting condition, it really bothered me. I still occasionally let people borrow books from time to time. If they are a good friend of mine and you know, I know that they're a relatively clean person that's not going to destroy something I lend them. Because I do have some friends that I love dearly, but I know from being at their houses that they're just trashy people. Not as a person, they're just literally trashy. They're just garbage all over their house and they just don't care. You know, the only time you see their house clean is if their mom comes by, kind of thing, or if they suddenly get a significant other that's more neat than them, kind of thing. The one exception to that is my mom likes to borrow my books a good bit, and she's really slow about giving them back, and when she does give them back, I tend to find snacky snacks in the pages, so I have to do like the shaking out and the flipping through and getting all the like cracker bits and stuff out, because apparently she likes to do a lot of her reading at her table and have little crackers or cookies or whatever. But with your mom, it's kind of hard to tell your mom no, because it's your mom. So I let it slide with her, but normally if somebody gave me a book like that back, I'd be like, well, that's the last time you're getting it. I am a big stickler about the condition of my books, which I guess now I'll go into that part, because the condition of my books plays a big part in my reading habits in general. I've heard some booktubers say they don't care about this so much, but I have heard a lot of booktubers say that they cannot stand cracked spines, and that's definitely me. Mine kind of stems from, I've always had really supercharged senses, I guess. Obviously not with my eyes. My eyes have started to go, but I tend to hear things really well and smell things really well, and especially tactile stuff. I've always been super tactile with the texture of things, and visually I get uncomfortable with a lot of it like physically pains me to see a lot of pattern at once. But I think the tactile thing has to do with the broken spines. I don't like the feel of holding a book, and when you're holding the spine you feel that cracked part on your fingertips. It's just, it drives me bananas. So that's one reason I do like to keep my spines smooth. It's not just because they're pretty on the shelf, and it is nice when you have a bunch of smooth spines and you can just run your finger across them. It's nice. It's kind of like when you can have a nice polished table that doesn't have splinters all over it. It's kind of like that. But yeah, it's also when I actually hold the book to read it, I get distracted if I have to feel a broken spine. So I try really hard not to break my spines for as long as possible. I understand after so long they're going to have wear and tear and they're going to wear out, and if it gets to that point I tend to just replace it and pass it on to somebody that is not bothered by a cracked spine. But I do have some books in my library that do have mildly cracked spines, but with those it's usually because that's a specific edition I wanted that's hard to find, so I just with those particular books I just live with it. Like a lot of other booktubers, I do like for all my editions to match. I think it's largely because when I have them on the shelf, you know, when you get into reading as much as I do, you have the book collections that just keep growing, you have to figure out creative ways to fit them into small spaces. So when everything is the same size and the same edition and everything, it just fits nicer on the shelf. It's just nice to see, okay, this is all part of one series, and then these are a little bit different, this is a different series, this can go over here, and you sort of Tetris it on your shelves. And it's just really aggravating when you have like 3 or 4 in a series that are perfectly the same, and then the one that they did the cover change and size change on. That's the thing that drives me crazy, is when they do a size change on it. Like, I can understand, okay, we switched publishers and now we have a different cover. I can sometimes live with that, but when they change the size of the book, that drives me crazy, because then I have to figure out how to fit books within that wonky sized one. Yeah, so just aesthetically I don't like mismatched books in a series. It's mainly the size difference. I don't like size difference in series. The other stuff, it kind of bugs me, but I can live with it. But I want them to all be the same size, at least. I also do not mark in my books. I don't write, I don't highlight, I don't dog ear, anything like that. And it irks me when I find it in my books. That's just me, though. And I know that's the personal choice and personal decision of whoever owns that book at the time. It's just, I buy a lot of my books used just for financial reasons, and it's always a little bit irritating when I find a book that looks, I'll flip through it and it looks clean at first, and then I'll get it home and it's like somewhere in the last couple chapters somebody started underlining or something, and then I didn't see it in the store, and I'm, damn it! So this may come off as a little bit anal retentive to some people, but I do have erasers in my desks and my nightstand for when I come across books that have markings, underlinings, and anything that looks like I can remove it, I have to remove it, because I'll just focus on that instead of the book. So I do a lot of cleaning up of my books. I've heard some booktubers say that it shouldn't matter about the dog ear things and underlining and all that, because it's about what's inside. It's just a personal thing. I just like mine really clean looking, and mine might stem from the fact that I came from a really poor background where anything that came in our house, if it came in new or nice, you had to keep it that way, because you didn't know the next time you were going to get something in a nice new condition, and you had to make stuff last. So I think in my mind that's partly where it stems from, is I'm trying to keep them nice for as long as possible so that I can get the most life out of them. And I think it probably has a lot to do with my childhood of just that mentality of, well, we don't have the money for a new one, so make it work. And the dog earring thing, I don't know, I just, creases in paper just bugs me. It's just, it's an anal thing. It's not gonna bug everybody. It does bug me. And I just figure bookmarks are so fun, though. Why would you dog ear your pages when bookmarks are so fun? And you can get them anywhere. You can make a bookmark out of anything. Anything! See, check this out. These are some of my favorite bookmarks. You can go for the store-bought ones. Like, one of my favorites is my Big Bang Theory. Dr. Mr. Or these are my favorite everyday ones. These just slip on to the end of your pages, or I tend to just stick them on the top of the page as like a regular bookmark, but they have a thing in the middle where you can actually put it on the last line you read, and those are really handy, and they don't mark up your pages. This is one I just made. I think this was attached to some Family Guy thing I had bought. Might have been a shirt or something, I don't entirely remember. But this was the tag that was on it. I just thought it was so cute because this is Stewie saying, "What the deuce are you staring at?" And I thought that would make an absolutely perfect bookmark. So I went and had it laminated. And then I have little 3D, I don't know if you can tell, I have a 3D butterfly one. I have another one somewhere. I was trying to find it, but it has planets, the planets and solar system on it, and it's this 3D style. Oh, look, it is showing up. Knowing me, I probably have that planets one stuck somewhere in some book I forgot I was reading. These are just a few. I have like freaking hundreds of bookmarks in my library probably. And then this is another one of my favorites. This is one that my husband gave me a couple Christmases ago just because he said he came across it, and he said it reminded him of me. It's just a little, let's see, it's gonna shine. It's just a little silver owl bookmark with a little medallion thing at the bottom. And I liked this one so much. I actually don't use this one. This one just stays in a little box I have to keep it nice because it's just, I was touched by the sentiment behind it. Those are some of my favorites, and like I said, you can make a bookmark out of anything, and you can make it creative and yours, and you don't have to mess up your pages. I'm also really, I'm a stickler about stickers on my books. I do not like stickers on my books. Even when you get new books that just have those barcode stickers on the back, I don't even like having those. I want my books to be completely smooth. I will sometimes leave the sticker on if, like you may see in some of my videos, when I have a book that's a signed copy, I will leave the signed copy sticker on. If it's something like that, or if it's like an award sticker, like a gold seal sticker, I will sometimes leave that on. Anything else, a price tag, a UPC code, if it's a library discard, library titles, anything like that, I will take those off and get them completely smooth. And because I buy so many books used and at discounts and things like that, I've gotten really adept at getting stickers and sticker residue and weird funky stuff off my books. Every once in a while I come into something that I don't know how to fix, but it's rare. I've found techniques for getting off damn near any kind of weird wonky residue and label and stuff off of books. And I've thought about doing a video about that, about how to clean up your used books, but I don't know, still on the fence about that one. So yeah, need them nice and clean. You might notice when I do wrap up videos or review videos that a number of my books that I show have overseas covers. And a lot of times that is not by accident. I tend to prefer the overseas art because, yeah, I admit it, I do judge a book by its cover. I figure as many books as I have in my library, I like to have the version I like the best in my library. I like to have pretty things to look at when I've read the book. I like taking them out and being like, that's because you just get books sometimes that have just a gorgeous painting on them, and why would you not appreciate that as art? Why not have it all? Have a good book and a great cover. So yeah, I do gravitate towards the cover designs that I like the most, and there are books on my want to read list that have been there a number of years because there are certain editions they come in that I just can't afford right now, or I'm putting them off until I can get the exact edition I want. And that's all right with me, because eventually they find their way into my library, so it's okay if I don't have all the books right now. And then the only other thing I could think of that's, totally me when I'm reading, I suck at being a monogamous reader. I really do. I don't think I've been a monogamous reader maybe since like junior high. I've been a multi-book juggler for as long as I can remember now, at least since my teen years. By my teens, I was so deeply into reading. I mean, I did read a lot when I was in grade school, but I don't think it was until maybe like junior high it dawned on me just how many books there are in the world now and how accessible they are. And I had this moment, I remember, of it being a little overwhelming and me thinking, how am I going to get to all of them? And I don't know, maybe that triggered something in me that I need to read multiple books at once to get to all the ones that I want to read. And I know now as an adult that the likelihood of me getting to all the books I want to read is just, no, it's not going to happen. There's always going to be something that I'm not going to be able to get to, but habits are habits, and it's all right, because while I read a bunch of books, I can actually somehow manage to separate them really well. I can be in the middle of multiple books and be like, okay, this is what was going on with that, and then this, and I can switch back and forth between genres. I can go from nonfiction to fantasy to a Western or something like that and be all right with it. Maybe because I've been doing it for so long, I don't know. But I never seem to have a problem with that. So yeah, I definitely read multiple books at a time. Normally I have at least bare minimum 3 or 4 books on my nightstand at all times. But a lot of times here lately it's inched up to like 7 or 8, where I'm sort of, you know, going back and forth between. Alright, so those are the ones I can think of right off the top of my head. And then let's get into the book habits tag, and that will probably bring up some more stuff. So the book habits book tag, I believe I originally saw this on the Book Jazz's channel. I think these particular questions are original to her. I've seen a few different variations of this tag, but I think these questions originate with the Book Jazz. So I will put her video down below. And the first question is, do you have a certain place at home for reading? Not especially. It just depends on what I feel like, what kind of mood I'm in. I do a lot of reading in bed, but I also will read on the couch, or I'll read in the backyard, or yeah, just wherever. Bookmark or random piece of paper. Just mention bookmark. Definitely bookmark. I'm not opposed to a random piece of paper, but I'm definitely more of a bookmark girl. Can you just stop reading, or do you have to stop after a chapter or a certain amount of pages? I can sometimes just stop reading if it's something I can't avoid, like I fall asleep at a certain point, or I just have to up and leave or something like that. You know, if like you're in the doctor's office and they call your name, you can't just be, wait, I'm at the end of this chapter. So yeah, sometimes out of necessity I can just stop in one place, but ideally I like to stop at the end of a chapter. Do you eat or drink while reading? I eat sometimes while reading, but I'm not very good at it. I get distracted and forget about my food and then it turns kind of cold and gross. So I don't do a lot of eating while I'm reading. I do tend to have some sort of drink with me though, whether it's coffee, tea, water, something like that. I always have some sort of drink with me though, because for some reason, even though I can't eat that well while I'm reading, I feel weird if I don't have a drink with my book. Multitasking, music or TV while reading. I am one of the quieter people in my family, so my whole life I've grown up around a lot of noisy people and like the TV always being on, or a lot of people talking at once, and so just being in that environment and just wanting to have a book with me and just existing in this naturally loud world we live in now, I have learned how to tune out a lot when I'm reading. And I get people all the time ask me how I can read in the car, how I can read with the TV on. I have over time learned to have that part of my sensory ability to just click off, and just, it's not always easy. Sometimes some places I'm in, it takes a little bit more work than others, but a lot of times I've figured out how to sort of tune out the outside environment enough to where I can successfully read. Years ago, I used to ride the bus a lot, and when you ride the bus, you just have to learn how to do that because there's some freaking weird people on the bus. Weird bus culture. So yeah, you need that ability to tune out a lot of what goes on the bus. One book at a time or several at once? As I said, I definitely several at once. At least 3 or 4, can be up to 7 or 8, just depending on what I'm into at the time. Reading at home or everywhere? I definitely read everywhere. I always have, at least try to always have a book of some kind in my purse. I actually buy my purses according to if they can fit a book or not. The purses I have that are too small for a book, it's either because I just loved them so much that I just was like, oh fine, I'll put little skinny paperbacks into them, or they were just gifted to me. But the majority of my day-to-day purses have all been purchased with the mind of, can they fit a good sized book into them, and then I work around everything else. So yes, I definitely read everywhere. I can read in a car, I can read on a plane. Yeah, it doesn't bother me. But I definitely need to have a book with me, because anytime I forget to take my book, that's when it's like this weird, it's like a book culture curse or something. It always seems to happen. If I forget to take my book and think, oh, I'll be fine, that's when I'm in some situation where I'm stuck in some place for hours on end, and then I'm, just smacking myself going, I should have brought the damn book. So yes, always try to have a book with me everywhere. Reading out loud or silently in your head. For the most part, obviously, I read silently in my head because I think it would weird people out if it would weird my husband out if I just started reading out loud without any sort of intro as to why I was doing that. I'd say, oh, hey, listen to this. If I just randomly started reading out loud, I think he would find it not only weird, but probably annoying after a while if I was doing it all the time, as would anybody else that was around me. If I started doing it in the doctor's office or wherever I happen to be, I think people would be like, can you not? So yeah, the majority of the time I do read silently in my head. Sometimes, though, I do read passages out loud just because it helps me learn how to work around some word problems I have, because I've managed to pretty successfully work around it over a number of years, but I still do have mild dyslexia when I read. I do stutter over things a lot when I read, but in my head you can't tell because you're not listening to me. But when I do videos, especially if I do videos where I want to read out passages to you guys, those parts where I read out passages, a lot of times I have to film those passages a good 5 or 6 times before I get to the clip that you see, because I will stutter over it a lot. So sometimes I will read over passages out loud just to practice getting used to words that trouble me sometimes. If there's, just, I don't know, just it seems to help if I do that every once in a while to practice speaking out loud, learning how to speak clearly a little bit better. Do you read ahead or even skip pages? I try not to read ahead. I don't like spoiling myself. I've heard some booktubers say that they will read the last page first just to see if the ending is worth reading the rest of the book. I could never do that. Ever. Can't do it. If I'm reading a chapter and I feel like there's a big plot twist or big epic moment coming up, I don't, my eyes sometimes wants to scan down and jump over it, but I don't want to, I don't know why, I don't want to spoil it for myself. So sometimes when I'm reading, I will actually put my hand over the page at the bottom where I have this feeling that something big is coming up, because I don't want to ruin it for myself. I want to have the full experience. So I will sometimes do that. Really, the only way I skip pages is if I'm reading a book that's not super interesting to me, but there's something I'm still supposed to get out of it. Like if I'm reading a book for something that was assigned or something that I was sent for review, or if I'm reading a book where it's not particularly interesting but I get the gist of what they're saying, I will sometimes skim pages. If I'm like, all right, I feel it, just get on with the other stuff. I'll sometimes do that when I'm reading, but that's about it. Breaking the spine or keeping it new. Like I said, I hate cracked spines in my library. I have a few of them, but for the most part, if the spine gets cracked, I replace the book. Do you write in your books? No. And as I explained before, I think that's just, again, comes from the way I was raised. And new things were a big deal in our family because the money was always an issue. So when you got new stuff, you kept it nice because you didn't know when you were going to get another new thing. So that's all the questions other than who do you tag. So if this sounds like something fun you want to do, tag it. You're tagged. Taggy tag. And let me know what you come up with. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next video. Bye, guys.